Thank you all for coming. Gosh, it's so nice to see some friends out there too. I didn't know I was going to see. Hapa. Taking my order by phone, she asks me, "What do you look like so I can find you?" Except that's not how she says it. Dropping words the way my Korean mother did, still making herself understood, this girl waits while I decide. Pausing as I do, as I've done since the first time someone asked me, with genuine interest, "What are you?" I answer this woman in a way I already know she will never accept. Take the chance I never take. "Yes," she says, "I think I know you." Spotting her just as she comes through the door, I wait for her to scan the room, find me, then decide. She approaches, tosses bags on the table, mouths the word I know she's thinking, the word I've heard a dozen times, Hapa. It is the one my mother hated, the reason I was grown before she took me home to meet her people. I see her stiff face, black eyes of resentment at their turned backs, their conditional love. Now I speak the truth of who I am, or at least half of who I am. I give this judgmental girl a broad smile. I thank her, watch her go, knowing half a truth is better than any lie. So my book is, it's called The Bamboo Wife. And if you don't know, a bamboo wife is an object in Korean culture. And it is used as a sleeping aid. And so I'll read the title poem. The Bamboo Wife. If one bright day you find yourself moving through the rooms of the Jeju Folklore Museum, you might pause at the domestic exhibits, wonder at the strange, closed basket as wide as a drum and as long as a yardstick. They call it Bamboo Wife, and carefully printed signs tell you that in warmer months, men would wrap their arms and legs around her caged body to sleep, her ribs free from flesh, the air moving through her to cool the sleeper. Perhaps you think this is a strange marriage. The wife stiff and silent, her spouse breathing into her his stale, sour air. Arms locked in a tight embrace around nothing. Where has she gone, living wife? Out to the paddy field in search of a soft breeze, the cold water cupping her feet as she reaches for the sky. So I write a good deal about my parents as well. And my father was a state trooper. He was retired Maryland state trooper. And he once guarded someone very famous, whom you'll recognize immediately from the title. Guarding George Wallace. One May day in 1972, Arthur Bremer shot Wallace 5 times, a bullet lodging in his spine in such a way he'd never walk again. We know that Bremer was crazy, not a martyr for good. Here is madness where we crave reason, bald desire for fame where we'd prefer conviction. My father, 25 and gentle still, stood with his straight back to the door of Wallace's hospital room, gun at his hip and shoes polished to a high shine. He would have laid down his life for an unworthy man. Who among us chooses who we care for, who we serve? I have forgiven him nearly everything. I I think I'll read, I also write about my kids. I was laughing when Chelsea said, that maybe my job was the hardest thing I do. I think being a parent is really the hardest thing I do. So, so I'm going to read a poem about my son. This one's called Scorpling. She caught you just as you emerged from her operculum, elevating abdomen, arranging legs. Gently, she placed you on her back, watched over your fragile body with 12 sets of eyes, held her breath in book lungs as you molted and hardened. On the days you'd climb down, explore until hungering brought you back to her, she lost sight of herself, regretted night cravings for solitude. You returned until the day you didn't. Your name is rooted in the words to cut. Did your mother's mad loving, that venom, make you stronger than you would have been otherwise? Boy, I've told you, how we begin is not always how we end. I think I have time for a couple of more poems. This one is kind of a gun poem. I grew up in a house where we had guns unlocked because my father was a police officer, and I've never had guns in my house, but I do have sort of an interesting relationship with them. I learned how to use them when I was very young. And this poem is called Cooper's Rules. So Jeff Cooper was, I don't know if any of you are familiar with him, he's actually the person who developed a kind of theory of gun safety. And so he's also the person who popularized guns for recreational use. And there are 4 rules that Cooper offered. Cooper's Rules. All guns are loaded, except for this. As soon as you realize that some guns are not, you let your guard down. And before you know it, a loaded gun slips into the mix and you find yourself in real trouble. Say the gun is sexy and shows some real talent. Maybe its lines are smooth and the coldness of the metal excites you. The danger stirs in you a feeling you haven't had in quite some time. You pick up that gun and feel its strange weight in your hand, and now you can't put it down. Number 2, never let the muzzle cover anything you don't plan to destroy. See, the thing with guns is that they're made to do some kind of damage, inflict some kind of hot pain, bore through soft tissue, or shatter bone. They're not made to comfort anyone, to bring soup if you're sick, or make you feel better when you've had a bad day. They won't remember how you like your steak or why you don't like that Eagles song that everyone seems to love. Guns are narcissists from sight to grip, and they will never change. Don't turn the muzzle toward you. Number 3, keep your finger off the trigger till your sights are on the target. For the love of all that is good and pure, do not put your finger on the trigger of that gun you can't make yourself put down. Number 4, identify your target and what is behind it. And once you think you know what it is you want, think again. Take a few steady breaths. Look and see what's collateral before you lift that gun and ease that trigger back. Prepare for the kick and the boom. Don't cry. And for my last poem, this is a poem I wrote when I was at Hambidge. I don't know if any of you have had the pleasure of being in residence there, but it's a wonderful, magical place. And thankfully spared from the worst of the storms. Retold. Orpheus, Eurydice cried, "What madness has destroyed my wretched self and you. Step carefully, friends. Follow close at my heels. Trust me to hold back thorny stems that scratch shins. Lift low, eye-gouging branches. Sidestep loose stones and muddied holes, threatening dryad ankles. Do be careful. Use your hands if they help. Move slowly over fallen trees, their twisted roots. Let me show you what I've found in these dark woods. Do you see these fired daylilies, their velvet tangerine heads held up by long, strong necks? Note the tiny clenched fists of the mountain laurel, the purple swollen fingers of wild orchids, water hopscotching rocks wherever the stream bends. Hundreds of dollhouse ferns, electric green, overgrow these paths. Take back what men once claimed. Up ahead, that man, my lover, will not wait, will not stop to admire what I see. He won't, I've learned, turn back for me. He will study trail maps, look for painted markers tacked to live oaks, repeat his stories, the same lyre notes I've heard again and again. Watch him greet every wild dog, insist that it love him. Lick him with all three tongues. Slick with self-interest, my lover stomps on large feet, progress of the unencumbered. Knowing my fears, primordial, unyielding, he warned, snakes coil in shadowed, cool places. To some this seemed a kindness. I once thought so too. Why don't we linger here while he moves on? Soak in the honest sun that shines on you, on me. The god Hymen predicted failure. Friends, I cannot say I wasn't warned. Thanks very much.